SVC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
Hello everyone, welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast. I'm Ted Orme-Claye from SBC News, and I'm once again in the studio with Joe Streeter from iGaming Expert, where we're going to discuss some of the biggest stories this week in the world of betting and iGaming. Firstly, we're going to have a chat about Belgium, where the European Commission has ruled in favour of one of Europe's biggest betting companies. And then we'll head over to Gibraltar, where there's also been an interesting legal development. First off, of course, a word for our sponsor, Optimove, the partner of this podcast. Optimove is the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. Okay, Joe, how's it going, mate? You've got some interesting news from us today from Belgium. Anyway, how's it going with you? You all right?
Yeah, all good, thank you, mate. I'm enjoying some sun. It just changes everything, right? I don't want to be the one to talk about the weather on a podcast. I don't think anybody wants to hear about the weather, but the sun just changes everything. It's so bright. Thanks for joining me today, Ted. Really interesting podcast. Talking about Entain again, as we did last week. So, yeah.
Yeah, we can't seem to stay off Entain stories at the moment, can we? Or they can't seem to stay out of the news, I guess. Let's just have a bit of a chat about that. Now, you've just, I believe you've just broken this story today on iGaming Expert. So can you give our listeners a little bit of context around what's been going on?
Yeah, well, the complaint was around, it's in Belgium, and it's a legal case that's been going on now for about 5 years. So Entain will be very happy, and Ladbrokes specifically, that's the brand it centres around, will be very happy to see the back of this one. Yeah, it's been going on for around 5 years, and it centres around virtual betting. We know about that sector, and whether state aid had been offered to Ladbrokes, and whether the EU's competition rules had been violated, which the European Commission found in favour of Ladbrokes and Entain, and also which means good news as well for Belgian regulators and the Belgian government.
So, like you said, a lot of this is to do with virtuals betting in Belgium at the moment, isn't it? So what's the background to this? Like, what's the state of play for the virtuals market, I guess, in Belgium at the time of this case?
Well, yeah, at the time of the case, Belgium did not have a specific legal framework to regulate such games, virtual games. But upon request by Ladbrokes, the federal regulator that controlled the gaming sector, which is known as the Gaming Commission, a nice, easy name. Yeah. They authorised Ladbrokes to operate virtual betting in the country, and it was largely focused in retail outlets. Yeah, we know that Ladbrokes has a strong presence on the ground in Belgium, like more than 300 offices. This was a big thing for them. However, the complaint, it stated that the regulator later denied other operators the same right, and in several instances, upon their requests for this, to operate virtual betting.
So you've just mentioned the complaint, Joe. What was this complaint about, and where did it initiate?
Well, yeah. So the complaint came from two operators in 2019. Well, it came from two operators, and it triggered an investigation in 2019 from Rockuluk NV and European Amusement Company. They both officially lodged a complaint with the European Commission, and I guess at the centre of their complaint was that they were alleging that the balance, the goalposts had been unfairly shifted in the favour of Ladbrokes in Belgium because of this regulation. But the regulator always cited its ongoing reflection of the appropriate regulatory framework and their kind of adaptiveness. Yeah,
it's quite an interesting one, I think, in the context of what's been going on in Belgium. This discussion around competitiveness and fair play and so on involved in this case, because from what's been going on the past couple of years, like the Belgian government, quite similar to the UK and the Netherlands, has been getting a lot more, I don't want to say confrontational, but it's been looking to clamp down on the industry a bit more, put some more restrictions in, especially around areas like marketing and player protection, they've I know like what the Netherlands has done. They're introducing a ban on sponsorships. They've got some rules around like the use of role models in marketing, like athletes and so on. That's also kind of similar to what we've seen in the UK, isn't it? With the idea that like people who are judged to have a strong appeal to young people aren't allowed in marketing. So we've seen the government and the Gambling Commission enforcing some much more stricter rules around that. But then we've also had this case come forward where some people in the industry are claiming that it's been more favourable to others. I just think that's quite an interesting kind of dynamic there. But anyway, moving on from that.
It's a really interesting subplot. The wider European frameworks and kind of how this is indicative of that, and the role of the European Commission too. It is an interesting subplot here, and I think maybe other regions will be looking on. Yeah,
and again, like you said, the European Commission's role in that, I always found it quite an interesting one to see in these cases in the EU, where it does go up to that level, to the highest level of the European Commission or the European Court or whatever, because. Again, like in the UK, now that, in the aftermath of Brexit and so on, that's not something that our gambling industry comes up against as much or interacts with. So I always found that quite an interesting dynamic in these EU cases. But anyway, just sort of coming to the close up of this one, what decision has the European Commission come to overall? Like, what is its summary?
Yeah, so investigations by the European Commission found that exclusive rights had not been granted to Ladbrokes. So, a win. They sided with Ladbrokes or Entain Ladbrokes and the Belgian regulator. They added that the Belgian state did not waive or forego any resources which should have been paid by Ladbrokes for operating virtual betting. And they said on that basis, the Commission concluded that the alleged measures do not constitute state aid under EU rules. So really quite a big moment for Ladbrokes. And there are obviously some other compliance battles going on, some other regulatory battles going on for Entain. A good win here for them, I think.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good summary there, Joe, regarding this decision and its significance for Entain. Like, Belgium might not be one of its biggest markets, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, but at a time when the company has come up against a couple of regulatory headwinds, the one that we just spoke about last week in particular that you referenced at the start of this podcast with the OzTrack report that was seen by the Australian Financial Review, claims of like money laundering, licensing failures over there. We've then had the ones in the UK, they had that record penalty issued by the UK Gambling Commission a couple of years ago, and then the settlement of HMRC. Entain's found itself having quite a few regulatory headwinds of late, and then for one to rule in its favour in Belgium, where, like you said, it's got quite a substantial retail presence, is pretty big for the company. So so a good week for Entain, I think, a good win for Ladbrokes. We're going to take a quick ad break, and then we'll be right back to discuss some of the other biggest developments we've seen so far this week.
SBC Leaders connects the gambling industry's top-tier operators and associations to share the best ideas, collaborate on solving the biggest issues, and push innovation throughout the betting and gaming industry. If you're an operator and want to join the discussion, visit sbcleaders.com for more information.
Good morning and welcome back to the iGaming Daily. I've kicked Ted out the hot seat and I'm going to be kind of hosting for this second half. But that means we get more insight from Ted, so the audience will be very thankful, I'm sure. Ted, you've got another story for us, right, in Gibraltar with Karel Manasco, the former Mansion CEO. Can you tell us a little more?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thank you for recognising what the audience want as well. We always know they want more Ted.
The iGaming Daily doesn't have enough Ted altogether. Which is more Ted is what we need.
Yeah, it's a shame we don't have Ted Memir on this, really. We needed to really double down on the Teds today. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Karel Manasco is, as you said, he's the former CEO of Mansion Group. That's quite a big operator that's been active around Europe and also in Ontario, I think. Over the past few years, they kind of emerged around the late 2010s as a challenger brand, particularly in the UK, looking to take on what is, as we've talked about before, quite a competitive market, going up against the likes of Ladbrokes, who we just talked about, but then also like William Hill, AAA, Betfred, and so on. Now, as we've said, he is the former CEO of Mansion Group, and he's been involved in a bit of a legal spat with his former company over the past year or two. Is
it not a bit longer than it's been going on a while, right?
Yeah, I thought is it 2023? I think it was when we first started seeing some of the. But the allegations around this do date back further. I think to around 2018, 2019. So from what we've seen with the court proceedings, Mansion Group alleges that some payments totaling, I think it was 2.5 million euros, were made to a consultancy firm, which I think it seems to be alleged that these were payments that were then made. The payments that were made to the consultancy firm were then transferred to offshore bank accounts, which they allege were held in Manasco's name. There was another payment of, I think, of about 120,000 euros to another firm where there's similar allegations around that. Manasco has subsequently been ordered by a Gibraltar court to pay this back to Mansion Group. He also had £5 million worth of his own assets frozen, but he alleges that this has resulted in a lot of bias against him in subsequent hearings, and I don't think he has abided by this freeze. This then led to the court accusing him of contempt of court, which they were going to sentence him for last week. He didn't go to the sentencing. This is according to a lot of the reports we've seen from the Gibraltar Broadcasting Corporation, GBC. And now, according to the GBC, a warrant has been issued for his arrest for not showing up to this court-ordered sentencing. So it's all quite to rephrase what we talked about last week, quite a sort of juicy, interesting legal development going on in Gibraltar. Again, not the sort of stuff we tend to always cover on these pods.
Yeah, some really significant allegations. An interesting one to see how it develops. And yeah, thanks for laying out those allegations, Ted. Definitely a story to keep an eye on. We do have a little bit of time at the end, and I kind of want to get your opinion on a couple of celebrity stories, if that's okay, Ted. The first, a big one for the betting industry, a massive one for the betting industry. Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, the headline speaker of the SBC Summit in Lisbon. How cool is that?
Yeah, obviously we've recently just announced this one as one of our big keynotes at the Super Stage. Gary V is obviously one of the biggest, well-known online internet personalities, especially around the world of business and entrepreneurship. Quite an opinionated guy. Has got a very long history of investments in. I know we pointed this out in a release today, but investments in Uber and Facebook. He does a lot of online mentoring sort of stuff as well, doesn't he? Of sharing his opinions on and an experience of investing and building up yourself as an entrepreneur. So I think it's one that will definitely get a lot of attention at Lisbon. You know, it's kind of continuing what we've seen our colleagues in the event side of things do at previous conferences by getting some quite big name, hard hitting speakers. Like we had Tim Berners-Lee last year, didn't we? We had Tony Hawk. Yeah,
not just big names, Ted. I think these people are real innovators. They're just pioneers in their space. And I think Gary V especially, he's been a game changer over the years. He's stayed so relevant. He's a real legend in business. And I think anyone that was at that super stage last year will know just how spectacular that stage is. I think when somebody like Gary V takes to that stage, yeah, it's just going to be fire, to be honest with you. It's going to be crazy. I think it's going to be really, really cool. It's definitely not one to be missed. Really, really excited for that. I can't wait. I'm really interested to hear what he's going to say. There's so many different avenues he could take his speech down. And yeah, I'm just so excited to hear what he is going to say in Lisbon. Such a treat, such big news. And a really cool one.
Points about entrepreneurship as well, that sure, his investments may not have been massively in the gambling space or sector that are immediately adjacent to that, but there's a lot of these guys, like you said, these sort of innovators and really experienced business people have life lessons and past experience of things that are relevant to anyone across any business sector, right? Yeah. About having an eye for investment, knowing when there's a gap in the market. Just,
for sure.
I know this is almost I'm bringing the basics here.
His insights will
A-level stuff, but
transcend into our his insights will transcend into our industry brilliantly. I think there'll be so much advice there for people to take, and it's just going to be a wealth of knowledge. Before we do depart, Ted, somebody else departed this week. Katy Perry departed into space. And I promised I would mention this on the podcast because what a weird story it is. I guess my question to you, Ted, is who would you like to go to space with?
Oh, man, that's mental. I mean, the story, like I say, the story itself was pretty crazy. I had no idea it was happening until yesterday when I was just getting a coffee in the office downstairs, and obviously we have a TV in the business lounge here in the Ashton office, and I just looked up and it said on BBC News, Katy Perry preparing to take off to space, and I thought I had to clean my glasses and take another look. I thought I was going mad, but yeah, who would I want to go to space with? Oh, I don't know, man. I feel like someone like, Christopher Nolan likes to do loads of these wacky films about like sci-fi and sort of space sort of stuff, like Interstellar and all this sort of stuff. I reckon he'd be interesting to go up there with, just to sort of see him like jotting down notes of what sort of film ideas is inspiring to come up with. I think I'm also getting inspired from this one because we had a conversation about the Oscars in the office earlier. So, I think I'm combining two things here. I think you could be interesting. What about you? Who do you want to go to space with?
Yeah, it's a great question. I didn't know if you'd return it because I really don't know. That's a tough one, right? I don't know. We've done 2 podcasts together now, Ted, and I've really enjoyed them. So I think the proven track record we've got, I think I'd like to go to space with you if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, sure, man. But that's the next iGaming Daily. We'll pitch this to Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, see if we could do iGaming Daily from space.
Yeah, we'll pitch it to Jeff Bezos and or Elon Musk, and we'll make it happen. Thanks, Ted, and thanks for joining us, everyone, whether you're listening from Earth or space. We appreciate your viewership, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a lovely Easter and a great weekend.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News network or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.